Tell me about your grandparents.
Well, we used to go and see them, and it was in the 30s.
And they lived in Hershey?
But they were up, I think the last time that I went there was in 1934, would be because in 35, Eula and I was out to Balos all winter, all summer. You know, there was no, they said, bring them out there, at least we can feed them and that.
And that was in Hershey, right?
That was 35. No, that was right here.
In Owen?
That was over in Owen.
With him.
Was that a couple who didn't have any kids, or what was it?
Yeah, they didn't have no kids.
So did you have to work, or what?
Yeah, helped on the farm. They had a farm.
The same family adopted them.
And
or took care of them, I mean.
They were farmers?
They were farmers, yeah. And so anyway, we spent the summer there, and it come time to go to school. And when we come back in from the farm, which was Labor Day, day before Labor Day, I remember this real well, Dad and Mother and the kids were up as the grandparents. The only problem was I didn't have any shoes to wear to school.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew this person that in town there, and as a matter of fact, I used to go and sleep over at his house and watch the fire at night in the winter, so it wouldn't go out because he worked the night shift.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the morning I'd get up and go home, get breakfast, and go to school and that. Anyway, so I went and I asked him for if I could borrow enough money to get a pair of shoes to go to school. And he says, okay. And so he gave me $2. And I went and got the shoemaker out of his house, partway uptown. And we went down to his store, and I got a pair of shoes for $1.98 so I could go to school. And then my parents come home from there, and that would have been 1936, 35. And then I graduated in 36. So but I never went back up there as far as seeing all of the grandparents after that, because I got involved with the working and so on and so forth. But when we was up there before that, we always used to go and we'd see Charlie, and then we'd go through the woods over to Hein and Laura's. And then the next day we'd always go over to see Doc and Johanna and the cousins, because that's the only cousins we had there. And that would be our trip, but I never did get to go to the family home, the Schafer family home. So I don't know. I never did really know them. As a matter of fact, I really don't know what Grandpa Joe looks like, because at the time he came to Owen to see Dad and Mother, we were already gone.
Oh, okay.
So he died after, in 40-something. So, but he had been there, but we were already married, and I don't know where we were then, but...
So you don't have too many memories of your grandparents then?
No.
No?
On Mother and Father's side, you know, we knew the neighbors, and they used to give us apples to take home and stuff like that. But there was no transportation, you know. You couldn't, you couldn't just ride around the country is what I'm trying to say, because if Dad and Mother didn't go with the car, you didn't go. And we used to walk over to Hein and Laura's, because I was just through the woods to their place, and then there was about a mile over to Doc and Johanna's, and then we'd see Clover and the rest of them, the cousins, because they were my cousins as far as I knew. And then of course there was Mike, and now in these pictures that came out,
That won't come out of the
Elizabeth
table.
had a daughter that I never knew.
So your grandfather was in the Civil War, though, right?
Oh yeah.
Do you know anything about that at all?
Well, no. all I know is what was in that paperwork that I wish we could find.
Okay.
You know, because it had when he went in the Civil War and the unit that he served with and that.
But he survived it, didn't he?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because after the war he come back and he kind of had a business, I guess, from the farm, like helping neighbors and everything. And he was from what they said, he was a real generous person.
Was
But I
that on
remember
the Schafer side?
on the
France.
France side,
Schafer, France.
on the France side. But the Schafer side, the only thing I remember real well is that one time we was up there and we was coming back and we stopped at a place, the mill irons in Knapp. And somewhere along the line, mill iron and Grandpa Joe, I don't know if this Ann was a mill iron, your second wife, or what, but Yule and I, we both remember the house where we stopped and everything in Knapp up here, but until we can find that paper, I don't know. We're going to have to, somebody's got it.
I'll double check and see if I've got it, but I don't know.
No, I think it was all together with the one that Lillian sent to your grandma, and I think they all got put together. It could be Sharon could have them. I don't know. I'm going to have to talk to her and find out if she did or not.
Okay. What'd you guys do for holidays? You don't remember? You don't remember holidays when you were
Well,
little?
we had Christmas, you know. We sat before the tree went up when we strung all the popcorn, because you didn't have anything else, you know. And then they'd buy the strawberries on a wire, hook over the little branches, squeeze it, you know, and the little, well, they're like birthday candles, but they call them Christmas candles. And a little clipper, you'd clip them on the branches, and if you had the lights on the tree, in other words, the candles, well, you had to sit there and watch them all the time, otherwise you might burn the house down.
Did you always
You know?
have a bucket of water or something nearby?
Well, I
we
don't
just-
remember if we had that or not, but and then Christmas morning, why, you got whatever was available. Usually, what Dad would come up with something or that. I really don't remember any of my Christmas gifts when I was a little kid, but
I always
I know
got
I got
two.
something. As far as during the summertime, you know, like 4th of July or something like that, when it was off, and then when we were kids, that was berry picking time.
Oh, okay.
Everybody went,
We went to Lake Isidore.
and they
and
would-
It is.
they used to go to
Putman's and
Putnam on the Black River, or out to Memorial Park on Popple River,
yeah,
and
everybody came in.
they'd have ice cream and that, but we never did.
We had
No, as far as our holidays, well, I guess that's the time when we went to Grandpa and Grandma's, if we went at all. Because, you know, I don't know what year Dad finally bought a car that I can remember. And he came home with a Studebaker. Oh, I don't know what year, it was pretty old. Boy, that was a big deal. And then we went from that, we went to a Jewett. That was a big touring car, and it had a California top on it. You know, the isinglass could open and close, a big deal. And we had that quite a while. And then he bought what was it? Graham Page. And that was a modern one. That you couldn't start that in the wintertime because it had 7 main bearings. By the time that old style lubricant got killed, you know, you couldn't turn it over.
my grandpa.
But
You done?
but we didn't travel too much as far as that went, because Dad was up there in the in the summertime, the cannery was
Yes.
running, and he couldn't get off, you know, holidays and that. If the peas were ready, they had to be canned.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was always spring or fall, I guess, that we went anyplace. And then, of course, school was on. So it was touch and go. It was.
Now, were you? Did your mom and dad own their house in Owen when the?
Yeah. Yeah, they owned that. When they moved to Owen, about, I guess Winifred was born right after they got there. And they owned the house. And then and they never added on to it until we put the front porch on, I remember. But I remember that, you know, they'd sit out there with the neighbors, would sit there in 34, and they'd look at the sky and all the dust bowl, all of the dust from the Dakotas was drifting in from the, you know, because then there was absolutely no rain or nothing. I mean, it was, and that's when they wanted to build that line of pine trees from Canada to Texas to break up the wind, you know. And I remember they used to sit there at night and they'd talk to the neighbor dad and them out on the sawhorse and talk about that, and you know, and $2 a day, and that was 8 hours of work. And
But he was a millwright at that point, right?
oh yeah, he still had that same job, and the cannery was running and that, but they were running on borrowed funds, you know, and there was no money, and nobody had any money to buy anything with, and you couldn't buy gas. I mean, you just park your car because it was walk to work and walk backwards.
Mm-hmm.
There was no money to buy gas with. You couldn't buy food. As a matter of fact, my folks used to even went as far as going up to her uncle's store in Withy to get food because he offered them. He was offering people credit, you know, so they wouldn't starve to death.
Do you,
And,
do you remember the day the stock market crashed?
Yeah, I remember it.
What was it like in Owen that day?
Just everything come to a halt.
Everybody stopped working.
Everybody
Just
didn't know what's this, you know, what are we going to do? And I mean, it was a matter of a day, and Dad went from regular wages to $2 a day, not an hour, a day. It was just that quick. And the whole town just kind of shrunk up. We went back to school, and of course everything at school was, if I remember, was talked about was that.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody had transportation. Everybody was walking, and so. But then about, I imagine 34 and 35 was probably the turning point. Well, when they repealed Prohibition,
What year was that?
32, right?
Oh, that sounds about right.
Yeah. See, then the booze started coming in. I remember up on Main Street, Golden's Tavern opened up. Boy, we're back in business, you know?
But nobody had any money.
Nobody had any money. But things improved a little bit. I mean, it wasn't $2 a day. It might have been $5 a day and that, but nobody had anything. I had one pair of pants and two sweaters to wear to high school. And I'd wear one way one day and one the next, and everybody was the same way. And that's one reason Eula and I went out on that farm for the summer, because we ate good all summer. We helped out on the farm, and they got
So you
finally
had to
got
barter, sort of.
Yeah.
probably got $10, and they drove up to see the grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
You know, during the late 30s, like when I was in the CC's, that the economy didn't improve that much. Because when I went in, you know, in 1940,
Not until the war started, then it started coming up.
$21
Yep.
a month. We got $21 a month in the Army. I was making, well, getting $30 a month in the CC's, but 22 if it went home, and I got 8. But when we went in service, I got $21, $1 for your laundry, 10 cents for old soldiers home, and you got the rest. And after 6 months, then it went up $6.
So
And
when the CC started, did you get a letter, or was it on the radio and they say, "Come
No,
join the
it was
CCs," or how did?
it was advertised somehow, I don't know.
And you went down and
But
signed
there's-
up.
Each town or
He went
something
up to
had a representative,
North first up
And you went-
Mercer.
and you went and talked to this gal, it happened to be a gal in Owen, about going in the CCs. And she had all the info, you know. And they had a quota. Each area could send so many people.
Oh, okay.
And so we went, and we got up to Camp Mercer. That was in 37. That's, I don't know, I guess it must have started,
Okay.
actually started in about 36, the CCs. 36, 30. Anyway, it was still pretty new. So we went up to Mercer, and then Percy and Roger went from there. They went in the Navy, and that was in 38. Yeah, 38. And I didn't go in the Army until 40. But
And
when we were in Lincoln, Nebraska, when we were married,
in 38, you moved down to
And-
Perkinstown, though. You weren't up
Huh?
in Mercer. You weren't up in Mercer all the time. You were down in Perkinstown. In
well,
38.
no, I know I came back and took that job in Abbotsford that didn't work
Yeah.
out. And then I had to start all over. I thought I'd get in the cannery net, but that was, they were just barely operating. Some financial operation outfit had the money and everything, and they were just barely keeping it running. And so I went down and I seen this gal again about going in the back in the CCs after spending 1938 at the cannery. And so she got into Perkinstown.
You did the belt going
I went up to Perkinstown,
and the peat cannery.
but that money still was the same. That didn't change.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, but in 1942 and 43, I made when I stayed at Chanute and as an instructor, teaching engine overhaul, I was promoted from private, 6th class, which really was private. I made sergeant. I was never a corporal. I made sergeant. And then I took what they had called AM exams. And you could get an AM 2nd class, and that paid the same as a staff sergeant. Or 1st class, same as a tech sergeant. And the tech sergeant pay was $114 a month. And I mean, this is...
It's a lot of money compared to $28.
No, but I mean, you're up pretty high in the business, you know, from not much money. And we moved to Lincoln, and when I got to Lincoln, then I made staff sergeant. But the day I made staff sergeant, I went from $114 a month to $96 a month. But I got $12 a month in rations. And we lived on $108 a month, didn't we?
Yeah, we bought silverware, towels,
And then when I went to go overseas, then I made tech, and was a tech sergeant until I got back. But there was no money. 1940 wages were nothing. And even when you stop and think about it, when I retired in 1970, I went to work at the Holiday Inn, $2.50 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
It was $100 a week.
Yeah.
And I remember this guy from, I guess it was Bartengale's Plumbing or something, that used to do work at the Holiday Inn. But I remember we used to sit there and he used to say, now if you really plan right, you can live on $100 a week. I'll always remember him telling me that. And of course I had the Air Force then, And well, you know from then on what the story, but and now, what do they get?
Well, it depends. I don't know. What do I make? I don't even know what I make.
Well, I would say
Chris-
the average
Chris-
is probably $15 an hour.
Christopher, when he got out of basic training, airman first class, $1,745 a month.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everything furnished.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a big change.
When I got out of basic training, 21 bucks.
Mm-hmm.
And I was happy to get it.
Yeah. Well, think of how the prices have
But you
changed since
live,
then.
but you live different then, you know.
Yep.
And the prices have changed so much.
Oh yeah. I drove milk truck for $1 a day, room and board,
When did you
That-
start driving milk truck?
1937, 36. Fall, winter of 36, start of 37.
And how long did you do that?
Huh?
How long did you do that for?
I done it 3 months and figured that was not for me. No, we get up. He had Pete Mertens over with him. He had 2 milk routes, he had north and south. And the creamery in Withy was where they delivered to. And the north was the biggest route. That's the one that I got to work. But we get up at 5, have breakfast, go over and you load up your milk cans, take the whey, you know, from the cheese, and that for the farmers wanted for their hogs to feed. Get all that and get ready, and at 7 o'clock then you were on the road. Go down Frenchtown Road, up, pick up the other ones, go over and pick up Munson's, come back and get Koskies and the Millers and all of them. And then I'd be back in at about 10:30. I'd be back at the creamery, unload, store your cans, go home and eat, and then you know what? We gotta haul some hay today, or we gotta go get some wood, haul wood today. And so like at 7 o'clock at night, I'm finally there to eat my supper.
Yeah. Long days.
$1. And I slept upstairs with no heat. So at the end of 3 months, I told Pete, I says, you better get somebody else. I'm just not gonna do it. But you
I
can
don't
run
know.
into so many
I
different,
said
you
Walter
know,
Ray,
the
Walter
farmers
and Ray
are
were
some
down
of
here,
the
weren't
best
they?
people in the world.
Yeah.
And 2
You know,
guys
if
were down
anything
here for a
showed
while,
up that
weren't
you were
they?
having problems, they
Walter
were right
and
there
them
to
guys.
help you.
Yeah.
What
We
guy you
got
talking
caught
about?
out in the snowstorm
had
and they
what
come with their
Chippewa
teams of horses and
from
helped
guy.
us through and everything.
My
Walter.
uncles? Yeah, my uncles, not yours.
Well, they had to help each other, right?
Huh?
They had to help each other to make it.
Yeah.
The farmers.
So you'd go out, you know, and well, the one time when that big snowstorm, you know, we went. It was the 3rd day before we got back to pick the milk up, and lucky it was cold. And this one farmer, a guy named Buchanan, lives down. He had about, I'll say 6 cans of milk at least, and I thought, I'm coming around there, and he's my last pickup. And man, I was loaded to start with because all these other people had stored their milk, you know, but they had enough cans. And here he comes, and he's got it in grain sacks.
Really?
He took the milk and set it out and froze it in buckets, and then put it in bags because he didn't have no cans to put it in. And that's the way we went. Plus, what was that? Pete, was that a Pete? What was that guy's name that lived down, partway down from the tracks where they had the Great Danes? That wasn't Peterson.
From where?
From your place, going towards town.
Towards town?
The farm is
Oh.
gone now. Anyway,
Jensen.
Jensen. Anyway, he had these 2 Great Danes. And I'd pull in there and I'd have to watch, see where they were. And finally they caught up with me, and this one big Great Dane came and put his paws up on my shoulders and pushed. Tried to help me put the milk on the truck. At least I claimed he'd done that.
Yeah.
I thought, boy, you're not going to want you around here no more. But I used to have to hide from those two damn dogs. Because them days they run loose, They didn't have the leash laws. But it was fun. But the worst part was, got in late at night and God, just tired and you had to furnish your own clothes. Wore out all my clothes. But he couldn't survive any other way either. I don't know who he got to take my place, but.
So then when you went into the CCs and went to Mercer, what did you do up there?
I drove the fish truck. We used to go to the ranger station. I had 3 guys. I had the truck, 3 guys, and we'd go to the ranger station and we'd make these piece of concrete that tapered up like this, and there were markers, and we put a brass emblem on it, and then they took them out and they put them along the border of Wisconsin and Michigan.
Oh.
They were, I forget what kind of markers they call them. And then all of a sudden it went along and they says, well, we're going to go on the fish detail starting. So we come the next day and they got these traps ready, and we started going around to the little lakes up there and putting the fish traps out. And then the next day we'd go back and we'd pull them and put the fish in the cans, because those lakes would freeze out and the fish would all die.
Oh, so
So we would take the fish from that little lake and we'd haul them over here and put them in the big lake.
And then in the
Plus-
spring, did you have to do it over again backwards?
No,
No?
I was gone before they done any going the other way. But then we had, the fire tower was there. So if there was a fire any place, we were the first ones that knew it. And we had to go to it. But
So-
only went out on one, Owl Lake. But we put the spray cans on our back and went out there, and some campfire got out of hand and went back in the woods and got it put out. But CCs were good. And the best programs there ever was. All that reforestation that was done. And then they Camp
You should have
McCoy.
it nowadays, too. Now
Yeah,
these people
should.
out of work.
The average worker would go out, and if it depended upon where it was, if it was open field, they used to go through with a plow and they'd dig a trench just so deep, take the sod and that, and then when it come tree planting time, then they'd go down there and with the spud and then go to the next one. But if you were in the woods where the tractors could go, then the guys done that by hand, and they used to go with the mattocks and they'd cut a. Well, as a matter of fact, I had one day of it, and then I got this other job. You cut his face, I think it was 18 inches wide and 18 inches square. You cut that square of sod and lay it back, and they expected each guy to do 1,000 a day. You cut one and take 2 steps, and cut one and take 2 steps, and keep it.
And they'd put seedlings in them?
And then the next year, that was all open, scalped
Oh.
for the tree. That's where they planted the tree. They go up to Hayward and get all the trees and the little, and then they go out and plant the trees. Well, then, otherwise, they cleared the dead wood and all that kind of stuff and fought the forest fires.
What was the food like?
Good.
What'd you have for
Good
breakfast?
food. We had good meals, just like Army meals. It was
So-
run by the Army.
Oh, okay.
CC's was, the camp commander was an Army captain, and his lieutenant is a subordinate, second in command. And you had Army doctor, because you had a dispensary,
Mm-hmm.
and you had a educational advisor who was a civilian, and that was about the four outside of the forestry. That was kind of like this part of the camp. That was the Army part. Then down here was all the Forest Service. That's where all the work went on. And then, of course, you had your ranger and all the other rangers, your construction rangers. So you went out, you had a ranger boss and probably 10, 12 guys to a crew. But I was, to start with, I was on the road crew. I was driving a gravel truck.
So did you work 7 days a week?
No, 5.
5? And then on
5
weekends
days.
you went home?
Huh? You could go whatever you want to do, anytime. As long as you were there in the morning and you were there for that duty that you're supposed to be 5 days a week. But nobody went any place during the week.
Every other weekend you'd go home then.
And every other, well, you could go every weekend except for the job that I was on after I went up to the Army, when I went up to the Army and drove the company truck.
Mm-hmm.
That was the Army truck with the top on, well, you've seen the pictures. And, but, so every other week you had to be the ambulance driver. So, and then the weekend that you were off, the ambulance driver had to drive the company truck.
Mm.
So each day you hauled the wood and filled up all the wood boxes, and then you went to, picked up the mail, and then you took the advisor if you had to go to another camp, or if you had the film, the show was moving, you take the movie to the next camp, like you go from Perkinstown up to Camp Rusk or something like that. And then at night you drove the movie truck. Guys wanted to go to town for the movie. They got their tickets at the canteen, and you loaded up a truck at 6:30 and went into Medford, and they watched the movie, and you brought them home.
How many guys do you think were at each camp?
I think there was 200 and I think around 275, if I'm not mistaken. About 35 people in overhead. That was the cooks and the KPs and the truck driver and the dispensary orderly. They had one, and you had the senior clerk and Eddie Kabelka. He was a mess sergeant and your supply man, and that was about it. But and all the overhead people lived in one barracks, one floor of one barracks, so that if anything came up and needed them, they didn't have to go searching around for them. And same thing when you went to mess hall. Mess hall was made up with picnic tables. And everybody ate at the same time. Went in and camp overhead people sat at the front tables and the rest. Of course, then you had your latrine and your showers and all that. So, plus the company driver had to take care of the commander's car, naturally.
So why did they build that slide at Perkinstown?
Huh?
Why did they build that slide at Perkinstown?
Oh, that was a WPA project. That wasn't at CC's.
What was WPA? I don't remember.
The Works Projects
Works
Administration.
Okay.
Now there was two of them. There was the PWA too, and that was the Public Works Administration. That was different. These were put people to work. The PWA, in the wintertime, they gravelled roads.
Okay.
And the farmers were hired with their teams, their horses and sleighs. And they'd go and there'd be people at the gravel pit, and they'd load up the sleigh, and then they'd spread it on the road. Even if it was snow on the road, they still spread it. And then when it melted in the spring, the road was gravel.
Mhm.
And that was the PWA project. Then the WPA was construction stuff, and that's toboggan slide was one of them.
Okay.
And they were more technical, I guess you might people, if you could call it that. But it put people to work, and they just, I don't know what they got. I don't think they got much for money, but they got something paid by the government.
Did it
And
cost
so-
people to go down the slide? Did you have
Huh?
to pay?
No.
Did you have to pay to go down the
No,
slide?
mm-mm.
No?
No, we didn't have to
20
pay for it.
times one night. Walked away and they took the toboggan down.
Yeah.
20 times?
20
It was
times.
That's a tall hill.
Yeah.
Is it still there? Is the slide still
Well,
Oh, yeah.
It's different. than-
Perkinstown's recreation area is still there.
I think they took some
got-
of it out, didn't they?
Huh?
Did they take some of it out, one of the slides?
They shortened part of the slide up, and then they opened up some more of the hillside, and they got slide down with tubes and all that kind of
Oh, the
stuff.
inner tubes?
Mm.
But then
No.
one night, the people, I went to school with Ethel Hod, they thought they were the only ones up there. So they came back down the chute, and they collided with somebody else.
Mm.
And so he had to drive, what do you think, 5
Well,
or 6?
I was. They had to start with. They built this slide, and it
goes
came
up
to an
like
end in the trees and that, and the people were, overrunning it. So they put this extension on, and that's when these people that she knew, well, a couple of them from the camp were there, riding as well. They didn't know anybody was up the top. They turned their toboggan around, and they were going to slide back down to they had a building, warming, wasn't actually a warming house, but it was a building shelter. And they were going to ride it down there and then get out. Well, before they got down there, this other one came, and we got the call at the camp, and it was about 10:15 or something at night. We were already in bed
My
anyway.
girlfriend
And-
lost all her teeth.
Eddie Kabelko came, and he wasn't a medic or anything, but he was pretty much a head guy. And he came in and he got me, and he says, "Come on," we said, "We got to go." So we took the ambulance and we went down, and there was broken legs and teeth laying all over and everything. And I had, 7?
Yeah, something
I had
like
7 people in the ambulance heading for the Medford for the hospital. There were, God, what a mess.
How many
And,
people
so anyway,
would fit on these toboggans? Like 7?
No, I mean, huh?
Yeah, we
On
went
these toboggans, how many people on
You
a
could
toboggan?
get,
two.
normally there were 3
We
or
only went
4.
2.
Oh,
Normally 3 or 4 would get on. Sometimes they'd overload a little bit, but anyway, so anyway, we stopped at the camp and got a bunch of blankets and stuff to put over because we don't know heat in that ambulance, old 35 Chevrolet.
Hmm.
And into town we go, hauled them in there, and God, the next day the word was all over camp about people with their teeth knocked out and broken arms, and so that was part of our job then. And when you were an ambulance driver in the wintertime, you had the ski slide.
Mm-hmm.
So you were down there. I mean, toboggan slide. But that was fun.
So what happened? You'd start at the top of the hill, and then you'd slow down when you got to the bottom.
You got on your,
Where'd it go,
you
about
got
80
on your
miles an hour?
toboggan at the top, and it was sitting flat, and you just tripped it and went.
Straight down.
Did it go about 80 miles an hour
And
by the time?
they estimated they sent one down with sandbags, and they clocked it at 80 miles an hour at the bottom.
With no safety
And
at
so
all.
after they got that extension, of course, it would go uphill, so it killed off the speed real quick.
yeah.
So you kind of
But
get
you
to the
gotta
bottom
get-
and go
they
like
had-
this.
Yeah.
They had to get out of there and walk down the path, not,
Before the next crew
yeah,
came through.
for the next ones to come, because that place used to get loaded on weekends. You never,
Oh, I bet.
I can't imagine. I took a guy with the ambulance one night all the way to Marshfield with 2 broken legs. I'm sitting there, and the guy, went over there. They had him ready. I said, "We got to get this guy to the hospital." So
How did
away
he
I
break
went.
his legs? Did he fall off?
I don't know. I didn't even ask. I just took it. I said something
You
about.
had to keep your arms and legs
I
in.
said something about Medford. He said, "Oh God, I gotta go to Marshfield." So I went to Marshfield. So I got back. The boss wasn't too happy about me going to Marshfield, but the guy put gas in the ambulance. So he said, "Well, it'll be all right. you done the best you could." But no, that it was quite a draw. I'll tell you.
Well, we took you and
But you see, we didn't.
Really?
Shirley.
We didn't have money for a toboggan, you know. So Dad says, "We want to make you a toboggan." And he got the oak boards and that and got them all put together, and we stuffed it in the water boiler on the stove down in the basement, put the front end of it in there and cooked it good.
Oh, so you could.
So you could
Cooked it
turn
good
the...
and all one day, and Dad come home from work and went down there and got some ropes and put on it and pulled it. It didn't go all the way around, but it went up nice, and we had our toboggan.
So why did Percy go into the Navy so early? He
I
went
know.
in, would you say in 38?
Yeah, they went to Duluth and went in enlisted at Duluth. March of '38. See, he would have retired 6 months after he died.
Mm-hmm.
The accident was October of '57, and he was going to retire in March of '58. Because he had told me before he was going to retire in '58. Well, Roger Wolfram, the one who went in with him from town here, he ended up in Eau Claire. He retired at 20 years too. But they had some rough goes when the Enterprise was sunk and all that. You know, it wasn't easy.
Did he served in the Pacific, right?
Pacific, yeah.
Do you know what island it was? Just some little island?
I don't know which one it was. I never pursued it.
Was the Lexington a
Carrier.
carrier?
Aircraft carrier.
Okay. Was he
But
a
they built
pilot
another
right away?
Lexington. There's a second Lexington was built during World War II, but they were on the first, Lexington one. But he was on the forestall when the aircraft accident happened.
Was he a pilot from the beginning?
No, he was a crew member.
Okay.
Aircraft mechanic actually. But they called him something else.
Mm-hmm.
But he was chief petty officer and high as he could go.
Was he older than you?
Yeah, 18 months.
Okay.
Yeah. So in 37, 38, were you guys really aware of what was going on in Germany?
Huh?
In 37 and 38, were you really aware of what was going on over in Germany?
Yeah, in high school.
Well, not yet then, I don't too much. It was about 39, I think, when things started, people started realizing trouble over
When
there.
I was
39 or 40 when Hitler invaded Poland,
Mm-hmm.
about then. And that's when the first, can't remember what his name was, kid from CC's, when he joined the army. And I know, I guess it was a recruiting deal of some kind, because all of a sudden, one day he shows up with this big old brand new army truck to show it off, boy, look what I got,
was
And,
Cecil. That's Cecil.
No, Arquette. His name was Arquette.
Okay.
And so then things getting a little bit worse, until Eddie and I were talking about it. Well, you can only put in 2 years in the CCs,
No, you didn't
Yeah,
notice it.
2 years and it was over. You were done. So another partial go around and I would have been out. And I'm sure Eddie must have had his 20th, 22nd year in when we left too. September, October, April and October October would have been his 22nd year, or 22nd month. Not years, months. So when we decided to go, and so one day we just went down and told him, we're leaving in the morning.
Well, what
Where you
year was
going?
Pearl Harbor?
We told him we're going to
What?
go.
Pearl Harbor was when?
We're going to join the army.
Pearl Harbor, what day was
41.
7th,
What?
41.
it? 41, okay. We didn't get into it until 41. You had already joined the service, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I had 15 months before the war, before the Pearl Harbor. Yeah, I was already teaching school at Chanute.
It was a poor South back then.
Chanute was pretty good. We were out every weekend. We was off, you know, at least up until Pearl Harbor. So.
And what state was that?
Illinois.
Illinois.
Grace and I were working.
49 miles south of Chicago.
Grace
So
and I
every other weekend we'd go up and see them.
Grace and I worked in the same house, you know, people.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that morning, Mrs. Royer came in, she said, they bombed Pearl Harbor, you know. And of course, Grace's boyfriend was up at Fort Sheridan, and Mildred's husband, I mean, they weren't married yet, but
Did you know where Pearl Harbor was?
I guess so, must have.
Yeah.
You must
It
have.
was in the papers enough.
Oh, really? It was in the paper before it was bombed?
No, I mean,
No, it.
bases. I guess, was Percy, he wasn't based at Pearl Harbor, was he?
What?
Percy?
No,
He didn't-
I don't think so. It
I
was a Sunday.
I think I would have asked where Pearl Harbor was.
It was a Sunday morning.
I guess we probably knew where it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so she was upset because Pearl Harbor was bombed.
No, she just wanted to know is that, you know, the war was declared right after that.
That same day? Was it the same day?
Basically. Didn't Roosevelt do a speech to Congress like a day after?
The next morning at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was sitting there in the barracks on my bunk bed listening on a little old radio. We're at war. Didn't go into Germany until after D-Day.
Yeah.
Because the war was a war of bombing and that there's no invasion until D-Day. Rationing was over before I got back next time. Must have been then. But if you were on leave or that military, then you could go up to this ration guy, and they would give you extra stamps, so you can get a little extra. I don't know if it's just the gas or what, but anyway, sugar was another thing.
Yeah.
So how do you remember how long a book lasted?
Well, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know if they
We
give a
only
new
got
one
one book.
every year or what. I don't remember. Of
You
course, I
only
wasn't
got
here.
one?
I wasn't there.
So did they have little stamps in there that you had to tear out? Or
Yeah.
how did
Yeah,
About half of a postage stamp. They
yeah,
were kind of small.
And so each one was for so much sugar and so much
Well,
coffee?
yeah.
Because the only way
The
the
red-
grocer then could get new sugar was they would have to turn those tickets over to the government
yeah.
so they could buy more sugar.
So they
to
could buy more for the. Yeah,
people.
yeah. The dealer couldn't get anything until he showed the stamps as well. But
That was pretty tight control, wasn't it?
But how did they decide which family got more meat than another family? You don't know?
No, he didn't
I
get
don't. I don't
me.
think. I don't think any family got more meat unless there was so many people.
Oh. So they must have figured out how much sugar per person, how many.
Yeah.
How much coffee per person?
Somebody came up with the quantities and they put it in the book. Yep, it's been a good experience.